Good evening and welcome to Fairfield City School District Board of Education meeting for September 21st, 2023. Call to order. Mrs. Lang, call the roll, please.
Mr. Begley.
Here.
Ms. Birding.
Present.
Mr. Clark.
Present.
Mrs. Gundrum. Here. Mrs. Shorter. Here.
Thank you. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clark will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Smith, presentations and resolutions.
Yes, Mr. Begley, members of the board, we do have one presentation this evening, and that is a school spotlight on Central Elementary. I think you will love it. I know we have some special guests with us this evening. This time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Gallo, our principal here at Central.
All right. Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to really share what an amazing place this is and to share some exciting things that have been going on here. Tonight's focus is really about reading, and we implemented a new reading program called Fontes and Pinnell last school year. And it's really taken off as far as getting the kids reading and comprehending and talking about books and really just enjoying literature. So I do have a presentation for you, and then we'll have a little interactive component. So first and foremost, knowing what FPC is all about, we kindly call it FPC because Fontes and Pinnell is such a long name. So with FPC, it is a pretty intense schedule. So you can see up here what a typical daily schedule for a reading teacher is. And at minimum, if they just did the very minimum suggested minutes, it's about 75 minutes of work if they did the absolute minimum. If they did the absolute maximum, it can go to almost 2 hours worth of material. So there's a lot of material in there. FPC has 6 components that it's registered for, The first one is an interactive read aloud. So an interactive read aloud is while the teacher is reading, they pause and the whole classroom listens, and as they listen, they will pause and ask questions. Sorry.
A contest for insects, news buzzed through the air. Bugs slithered and swarmed from here, from there. Down by the pond, young Damselfly Billy said, "I'm just a plain bug, neither clever nor frilly. But while I won't win, I would still like to see who's the ugliest bug turns out to be." So this Damselfly Billy, she says, "I'm not going to win. I'm neither clever nor frilly." Why do you think she doesn't think she's going to win this contest? What do you think it is? She's very much going to stay by water. You think she's going to stay by water? It says, "I'm neither clever nor frilly."
So as you saw, that was Mr. K, and he was conducting a lesson using the interactive read aloud. And the coolest thing about the interactive read aloud is how much the kids are interacting into the story. So it's more than just reading a story, but it's asking questions, using imagination. And there's a couple more pictures here where we have a 4th grade classroom doing it on your right, and on the left-hand side is a 2nd grade classroom. We have Mrs. Springer and Miss Houchins. The kids come to the carpet or come closer to the board, and they really enjoy being a part of the storytelling. Another component of FPC, I don't know, my clicker's not working, sorry. Perfect. Is called shared reading. That happens most of the time in the younger grade levels where the teacher is reading and the students follow along. So the teachers will tap. It's fondly known back in the day as choral reading, if you remember the phrase choral reading, where the students would read with the teacher, learning pace, learning how to do voice inflection, things like that. We also have writing mini lessons, and that's something that is actually new this year for some of our grade levels. Our younger grades had writing mini lessons, and they're actually they created more for the 4th and 5th grade of the mini lessons, so that's something we started this year, and it's also just developing a love for writing, just enjoying writing. So if you look at the next page, the kids, like this is a 3rd grade example, and the kids will create a writer's notebook. And in that notebook, they will write short and extended responses to questions of what they've been reading. The next slide is the reading mini lessons. And we'll see a brief introduction of our very favorite, Miss Collins, who's also in the audience, of her showing how a reading mini lesson is done. So this is a different way of doing it. You guys thought she wasn't acting today. But this is a different format of teaching kids how to read and doing it in very short snippets. So we'll watch a quick example of Miss Collins. So again, you see a lot of interaction between the teachers and the students. So it's not just a sit and get type of program. It's really meant for the kids to get busy and to get involved in the program. And there are some examples of the interactive or the reading mini lessons answers and responses. So you can see that one student really likes to go shopping with his or her family, and the other one likes to read books with his mom and dad. So that's pretty exciting. So they draw and they write, and it's just really finding that love for language arts. Another component is the phonics and word study, which includes some of the spelling components. So really trying to hit hard, making sure that we're, learning all of the vocabulary words and all of the phoneme components, which is really big in our building here, is to focus on phoneme segmentation and being able to break words apart and bring them together. And you can see an example here on the next slide, is an example of even in 4th grade, they work on phonics and word study and bases of where the words came from, and there's also a 1st grade example there. Next one, please. Oops. And then we have guided reading groups. And this one's pretty exciting as well, because guided reading groups is where each child is at a specific level and they get into teams within the classroom. And within those teams, they work together to read something that's a little bit more challenging for them, but also having the support of the teacher or additional staff members in the room. So for example, you'll see that the second graders in this picture here, they have a fun little finger that they're using. If you really pay close attention, you'll see that they have like a Halloween finger, and they're following along as they're reading, and they're working together, but they have support right there so that they can get pushed to that next level. Here's another example of a guided reading group. So we use all of our support staff. We do a lot of push-in in our building, and that push-in support. So this is one of our educational assistants working with a group on a guided readings lesson. Whoopsie. Sorry. There we go. And then the final component is independent reading that comes with FPC, and that's where the students have some choice over what they're reading. They might choose to do a book club, they might have conferences, and they really enjoy it. And they get to pick what they want to read for that one. But now, what I really want to show you is how an interactive read aloud is done. Because if any of you are ever, I don't want to say bored, because I don't think anyone gets bored around here anymore, but if you ever need a smile, or you ever need a laugh, or you ever really want to see what happens in a school, I encourage you to teach an interactive read aloud. I've done it myself, other principals have done it, but the kind of conversation that the students have is mind-blowing. And we only hire the best teachers at Central. So I'd like to introduce to you a couple of teachers that we have that we've hired just today. They just came tonight. This is their first day with the classroom. So if my two teachers could please stand up. That's you. All right, so they're going to be working with you with a first grade. So we have the Beer triplets. So they're all Miss and Mr. Beers. However, they all have idols. So Miss Sabrina here is going to be, are you still Miss Tran? Yeah. All right, so she's Miss Tran. And then we have Mr. Beer is going to be, who did you pick again? Mr. K? Yep, so we have Mr. K, so that's it. That's who he's going to idolize there. And then we have, you changed your mind a couple times, so you're going to be Mr. Weiss? All right, so we have Mr. Weiss here. So if you guys could make sure you turn your listening ears on for this interactive read aloud. Take it away.
Hi, first graders. Today we're going to be reading Mrs. McNosh Hangs Up Her Wash by Sarah Weeks, pictures by Nadine Bernard Westcott. Before reading, what is the woman doing?
Hanging her clothes.
She's very happy to put her laundry up.
Have you seen clothespins and a clothesline like this?
Yes.
But we're old.
Can you see the clothes Mrs. McNosh hangs up? What do people usually put on clotheslines to dry?
I know this one.
Yeah.
I know this one. Towels, sheets, socks, and shirts.
Each Monday at dawn, Mrs. Nellie McNosh brings out a barrel and does a big wash. What do you notice? You?
Well, she's hand washing her clothes with an old washboard.
It takes her all morning, and when the sun is high, she hangs what she washes on the clothesline to dry. She hangs up the dresses, she hangs up the shirts, she hangs up the underwear, nightgowns, and skirts. She hangs up the stockings, she hangs up the shoes, she brings out the paper and hangs up the news. What is funny about the shoes and the newspaper?
You're not supposed to wash those.
He hangs up the dog.
A different story with a cat.
And this dish is done.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
She gets a bonk mumble when he hangs up.
Quote from it.
She hangs up a hat in an old button gown. She's stupid that when she hangs upside down. He hangs up his lamp and he goes Christmas Eve and Grandpa Which old line will sound the same at the end?
Breathing teeth?
Yeah.
All right.
She hangs up a kite on the tip of its tail. The postman arrives and she hangs up the
The busy lady.
Before he gets hung up.
She hangs till she hung every last thing in sight, including the turkey that she was roasting that night. Which hurried north in my bus. Mrs. Nellie McNosh has finally hung up the last thing of her lunch. What do you think every last thing in sight is?
Everything she saw.
She takes off her apron and lets down her hair. She hangs up herself in a comfortable chair. Look at Mrs. McNosh. What do you think about that?
Strong clothesline.
Yeah, I think she deserves a break. She worked very hard.
She did.
After reading, what are some examples of funny things Mrs. McNosh watched? Newspaper? Okay. What do you think of Mrs. McNosh? What is she like?
Dedicated. Clean.
Very focused.
Very busy.
Strong.
Strong.
This story is fiction if it couldn't happen in real life. If you thought it was funny, did you like it? Why or why not?
Good story. I liked it because it rhymed, it kept our attention, because it was weird.
So I'm going to have them stand up there for just a second because one of the reasons why this is my favorite component of FPC is the authentic conversations. And even just in the back when we were rehearsing, they had such smart things to say. Can you guys tell the board here what you thought of Mrs. McNosh?
Hardworking,
But tell me why. So you said hardworking, but tell me why.
because she had to hang up like a chair, she had to hang up her dog, she had to hang up like a lot of things. I was kind of happy and kind of not.
What do you think?
That's a strong rope.
Yeah, it's a strong rope. Why?
The rope's not that strong.
Absolutely.
She's kind of slow because she's hanging up the newspaper, her shoes, the ball.
Yes, yes. So thinking about what they said and noticing the sticky notes that are inside each one of the books, the sticky notes inside the books are actually purposeful and were placed there by the teacher with guidance from FPC to make sure that we are really hitting each one of the components and circling back to sequencing and making sure we're including the reading mini lessons and including the phonics and word study, and then they will write about it. So they will have this whole activity that will be done just utilizing that one interactive read aloud. So you guys did awesome. Thank you. So thank you for letting us present. Do you guys have any questions for us?
What grade were our readers? Fifth grade.
And they have been at Central since kindergarten.
Yay.
So the program is scalable from K through 5?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And I would suspect that it really helps with our English learners, right?
It really does, and it asks the questions that they ask, and in the prompts from FPC, there are suggestions and supports that you can use for English learners and different question and sentence stems that you can utilize with them. But it also gives you a chance just to think outside the box, because if I can pick on Mr. Gavin for a second, when we were practicing again, where did you say you saw clotheslines? Say again? When did you see clotheslines with clothes hanging on them? When he's on the bus. Because a lot of our families will utilize that, so it relates to home as well. So it was really neat to be able to bring that in, because I didn't even think about that connection.
Other questions, comments?
Great job.
Thank you for being here. It's so fun to get to interact with students in the schools, instead of just sitting in our usual place. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but just sitting in our usual place. It's so fun to get to interact with you guys, and you did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's really great to be able to see some of the lessons that we discuss and improve of on the board, and then see you guys actually learning and implementing them. And then for us to get to interact and get an example of it is really awesome. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, well said.
Well, student teachers, you did a great job. You were very loud, not loud, but enough to hear so that we could hear you. Your presentation was awesome, so that's leadership. That's another step in what this was doing. I'm excited that phonics is incorporated with this, because I've read on FCP before, and phonics isn't always engaged with that, so I'm very happy that we are putting phonics in with that. But as the young man said about seeing the clotheslines on the bus, it does help them picture life, the world around them with what you're reading. So great job. I'm glad you're here tonight. It was awesome to see you all, and again to hear you speak and teach us on how to wash clothes was amazing. So actually Mrs. Ogg and I did, was it 4 classes we did in the spring or the fall? Spring this year, into last year. Winterish. And got to see 4 different classes utilizing this program, and I'm glad to see it's working out well and how it's going to help, like Mr. Begley said, the English learning students. I think this is a great piece for them to really get involved with reading and get interested in reading out of a book and not one of these. So good job.
Yeah. Good?
Yep, that's all.
Principal Gallo, thank you for bringing this program before us and for hosting us tonight.
Thank you.
And to
Gary,
our
great
families,
job.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here. Before we move on to the meeting, if you'd like to stay, you're welcome, but you don't have to. This might be the time for you to exit stage right.
Ms. Gallo, thank you for doing a great job.
I think so.
They're right. Yeah.
I don't know, is there a book to read out loud?
And thank you, parents, for bringing the kids.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, really? Oh, that's great.